Hello and welcome to Never Seen It, a podcast about movies we haven't seen yet. I'm one of your hosts, Betsy, and with me is my co-host, Trent.
Hey there.
So today, we are starting a brand new series. This one's going to be a little more loosey-goosey than some of them that we have done, but there is a common through line.
A loose thread.
A loose thread. We have talked many times on this podcast about how many movies, specifically from the year 2002, that we haven't seen.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. And it got us thinking there's a lot of movies from a lot of decades that we haven't seen. So we have decided we are going to watch one movie from each decade, starting in 1962 and then 72 and so forth until we get to modern times in 2022. So we're doing a series of 7 movies. It's gonna be a variety of kinds of content, but it is all stuff that people have heard of and we have not watched. And in most cases, neither of us.
Yes, and we made it a point to pick a movie from each decade, from the year of that decade, that doesn't necessarily rise to, okay, this is the best movie of that decade or anything like that.
Like the biggest hit of the year.
It's moreover like representing what the times were in that year.
Yeah, what was the kind of stuff that we were watching in 1962? What was getting popular? What was it like in the 60s?
Right.
So we tried to pick movies that are kind of quintessentially of that year.
Yeah.
So we're starting, like I said, in 1962. The first movie that we are going to be watching is The Manchurian Candidate. Now, I saw the 2004, whatever year this was, remake, but I have never seen this original movie, and Trent, neither of you.
No, I haven't seen either of them, so I know kind of what it's about. It's a Frank Sinatra movie.
Yes.
I have not seen Frank Sinatra act in anything.
Really?
Ever.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because in your house, we watched like Westerns a lot, and he didn't really do Westerns. He did a lot more like kind of cool, quote unquote, movies.
Sure, because he was Frankie Blue Eyes.
He was a cool guy.
Yeah.
So yes, that makes sense that you wouldn't have seen anything. I've mostly seen his musicals.
Sure.
Like I saw Anchors Away and On the Town, which he did in the 40s, and then I saw the original Ocean's 11.
Yeah, I was going to say, he did the original Ocean's movie.
Yes.
With the Rat Pack.
That's basically my experience with Frank Sinatra, but I knew he was in this one.
Yeah, he's the star.
Do you know anybody else who's in it?
No.
I'm just going to tell you because I know that you're going to also have never seen this person, at least this young. Angela Lansbury is in this movie.
No shit.
Angela Lansbury, when she would have been probably in her 40s or something.
Okay.
40s, 50s, but we're used to like 1980s Angela Lansbury. She's always been an old woman to us.
Right.
So here she's like middle-aged.
And like, I understand like Angela Lansbury and even like a gal like Betty White, we're like fucking foxes back in the day.
They were hotties. They were hot. They were sweet little ladies back in the day. So I think that'll be interesting for you to see her anything other than Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
Other than those two, though, I really am not sure who is in this movie. And I'm probably going to recognize people more than you are just because I've seen a lot more movies from this time frame than you have.
You have, yeah.
Do you know what the movie is about?
So my understanding is that this is set in the 50s. Because this came out in 62, it would make sense that they're going to talk about the 50s. There is a Korean War veteran that is brainwashed, and I believe there is some kind of election, or he's going to like run for some kind of office and infiltrate the government.
Yeah,
and take over whatever it is, but he's brainwashed in order to fulfill the communists whatever.
Yeah, basically he's a sleeper agent where he can be triggered at any moment to like take over. And like I said, I've seen the one from the 2000s, and that one has like Meryl Streep and Leah Schreiber and Denzel, so big cast. And this one, I really don't know much about other than that broad concept. And I think they probably adapted it like a different war. He's a veteran of a different war.
Right, and it's not going to be communist because by 2004, we're not talking about communists.
In 1962, we were definitely talking about communism.
Yeah. We were just done with the Korean War at this point. And again, that was more of the whole domino theory about, and it was unsuccessful, just like we were unsuccessful in Vietnam. So...
But we were only barely finding out about Vietnam in 62.
Sure.
We hadn't really started over there yet.
Not in earnest. So it was still going on. I mean, 62, Kennedy was the president, and the start of Vietnam started during Kennedy.
So yeah, that's a little bit of the context of what was going on in the world, in America in particular, in the early 60s. So I'll be curious how a political thriller works.
In 1962, like this, the Red Menace. Like we've seen some like modern movies. Their take, like I always think about Good Night and Good Luck. It is about Edward R. Murrow. He is a newsman for CBS, and it was back when he but he started doing stories about Joseph McCarthy and calling him out on his bullshit. Like, how the fuck are you, a U.S. senator, calling your fellow Americans communists when you have no proof?
Yeah.
Like, we've seen movies about that era, but not actual movies. I haven't seen anyway. I haven't seen movies depicted in this era talking about communism and communists and the Red Menace and things like that.
That's a good point, because I think the only one remotely close to this time that we've watched is probably Doctor Strangelove.
Right.
And that's a satire.
It is.
But it's, talking about Russia and the impending nuclear disaster that was on everyone's minds.
That's more Cold War stuff. It's not necessarily communist versus capitalist and things like that. Not political intrigue. No. That's war.
That's about war.
Yeah.
This one is more
espionage.
We're going to take over from the inside because we have planted somebody in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
But that's going to be, I think, what we're about to watch. Like I said, neither of us have seen it, so we're going to go watch the 1962 version of The Manchurian Candidate, and we're going to be right back. And we're back. All right, Trent, so we just watched the 1962 version of The Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah.
What are your immediate thoughts?
I can see why they remade this, because it's got a lot of potential for, hey, let's just apply this formula to a more modern day. It took a while for them to do it, but they did it. I think it was really well done.
Absolutely.
I think Frank Sinatra and the other guy, I didn't get the actor's name.
The actor playing Raymond Shaw is Lawrence Harvey, who I have not seen in any other movies.
No. We got two different tracks here. We got these two guys from this unit in the Korean War who got captured and brainwashed, which we kind of got. We knew about that in the beginning when we talked about it in the intro. What we didn't know was the plot to get someone into office isn't one of the men who were brainwashed. Like, they weren't going to be installed as a candidate. They were going to be used in order to get the candidate that somebody wanted.
They're trained as an assassin.
They're trained as assassins.
To put the right person where they want them to be.
Not as like a sleeper agent, a sleeper candidate. It's more, no, we're going to train these sleeper assassins to do our bidding in order to position the pieces where they want them to be.
And of this group of 10 guys that got captured and brainwashed, they picked the least assuming and the one that people would least suspect.
Yeah.
Because they're trained to not even know or remember what they did.
Yeah. And they are actually given different memories of what happened.
Well, they're all brainwashed with the same story, but
Yes,
because
that's what I'm
each
saying.
man is an individual, they all have their own interpretation of the story they're being fed. So, like, at the beginning of the movie, it kind of starts and ends very abruptly, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait, what's happening? Everything in the middle is great.
Yeah.
But they're giving a little backstory and they say, okay, this is what happened. And they come back to America and Major Marco,
Yeah.
the Frank Sinatra character,
Yeah.
is having the same recurring nightmare. And it's a meeting of these little old ladies at a hydrangea club.
Right. And we have these like grizzled army men just sitting there smoking. And it is slowly revealed as the camera pans around and around and around. We get all the way 360 degrees and it changes. And it is a very subtle kind of a thing where the camera keeps cutting and we get a new background, and then we get a new speaker, and then we get new people in the peanut gallery.
And what's really happening is they're on display for like a communist meeting.
Yes.
Where they're like, look at what we have done. I
Yeah.
have brainwashed these men.
Right.
And I told them they're at a hydrangea meeting and they don't know where they are for real.
Right, they're referring to me as ma'am because they think
Yep.
that I'm this person, and we're seeing their perspective, and as time goes on, it keeps cutting, and we get little glimpses of what it actually was, but then it's also interspliced with what they're
Listen, for
seeing in their mind.
For 1962, this is an incredibly edited sequence.
Absolutely.
Because it is the made-up version that they've been told. So it's this group of little old ladies in
Yeah.
a lobby somewhere
Yep.
talking about flowers, but then there's the old men who are all the communist leaders and
Yeah.
military guys.
We got the Soviets, the North Koreans, and the Chinese all there witnessing what's happening in this group. And we have this, I don't even know what the hell he's called, the dude with the mustache. He's up there
the mad
demonstrating.
scientist, if you will.
I guess he's running the demo of all these guys.
But it's edited in such a way that sometimes he is in the flower group, sometimes the
Yep.
flower women are
Yep.
in this group of communists.
Sometimes there's a flower woman holding a big ass knife.
Yeah, it's just absolutely the kind of thing you would believe is a dream when
Yeah.
you're having it, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and because you can't have any kind of CG, there wasn't anything that you could think of as CG back in 1962.
It would have been some shoddy.
You have to do camera tricks and quick cuts to confuse the audience, but you have to also be able to have the audience understand what's happening. So you have the initial thing where they're in the flower garden juxtaposed with the hard-ass army men. Then you get cuts back to other things, and then we go back to the flowers, and then we get back. It's expertly done.
And you get part of the story, and then, of course, Frank Sinatra's character wakes up,
Yeah.
and then later we see another man who was in the unit, and it's his version of the dream, so it kind of
Right.
picks up where that bit left off and
Right.
does another leg.
Because in the initial thing, it is a bunch of little old white ladies,
Yep.
and then it transfers over to this black guy, and it's a bunch of old black ladies.
Yep, so they all have their own memory that
Yeah.
they have created for themselves,
Yeah.
covering up what really happened
Yeah.
in their own minds. And they all think they're going insane. Now, we only ever
Sure.
hear from 2 of them.
Right.
There's 9 of them that made it out. So it's Raymond Shaw and 8 people from his group. And we only ever hear from 2 of them, but they're having the exact same dream.
Yeah.
And like they're able later to both identify the same guys. So they slowly unravel that this isn't just a dream. These are actually memories. They take it to the government, and all of the military guys are like, well, let's look into this. Let's look into this. And the
Right.
more they dig, the more they realize quickly, this is not a nightmare. This is like a real thing, some sort of buried memory, and we got to figure out what happened here. But what they keep remembering is when people ask them about specifically Raymond Shaw, who has
Yeah.
been given the Medal of Honor, the
Right.
Congressional Medal, they always have the verbatim response. He is the bravest, warmest, kindest man I've ever met in my life.
Right.
But, you know, Frank Sinatra's character, Marco, he says, I hate that man. He
Yeah.
is repulsive. He is one
Right.
of the worst human beings I've ever met. In the back of my brain, I know that. Why in God's name would I say
Yeah.
he's the sweetest, warmest, kindest man?
Yeah,
What the hell is that
there's
about?
something still in his mind that is preventing him from actually believing it. That is where it stops. Saying the words are one thing to someone else asking about him. But actually believing it is something they couldn't actually imprint.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's trying to find out.
Yeah.
So the whole movie, he is trying to seek out, like, the different guys in the military, but specifically he wants to find Raymond.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know what the hell that's about. And Raymond's a piece of shit.
I mean, I don't know about that.
He's not a likable guy, and he knows he's not a likable guy.
Who cares? There's plenty of unlovable men out there.
And he uses that word so many times.
Yeah.
Everybody does not love Raymond.
Yeah. So, because this is kind of a convoluted mess at times, where it's not a linear path. We got a lot of flashbacks. We got a lot of things happening here. Let's kind of go through this movie and make sure that we understand everything that's going on. So we start in 1952. They're in the Korean War. The unit gets captured. They get betrayed.
They get betrayed by their interpreter.
There's an interpreter in their midst who betrays them and turns them over. They get captured. We don't see what happens, but in essence, what happens is they are tortured and they are brainwashed, so to speak, and programmed to be whatever they want them to be, to respond to stimuli, to respond to certain commands and things like that.
There's like a code phrase, and they demonstrate it in the dream. I didn't see. You mentioned this to me. So I saw it. I didn't hear them say the line, but I saw the action. But basically, they said, Raymond, why don't you pass the time by playing some solitaire? And he sits down, and he's moving his hands.
Like he would.
He doesn't have a deck of cards in his hands, but he's pretending like he's playing solitaire.
Yeah.
And then once he hits the Queen of Hearts, that triggers him to be in control, and he'll follow whatever command is given to him. At
that point, he is susceptible for whatever command is given to him, whether it's by the person who gave the initial play solitaire command or not.
Right. And after he has been programmed, they all are content with the quality of their programming, and they're all like set free.
Right.
But it's all a ruse. So like they make them memorize a story like, oh, he led you to freedom and that guy died and this guy died.
The 10 people all tell their own story.
But it's the same story.
But it's the same story from their own perspective, so to speak. And they elevate Raymond Shaw to be the hero of the entire unit.
Yep.
But in reality, Raymond Shaw is the guy who they have programmed the most to be this assassin.
And they demonstrate that by saying, Raymond, have you killed anybody? No, I haven't. Not even in combat. I mean, maybe in combat.
Right.
Okay, who do you like the least in your group? It would be this person. Oh, well, we need the major.
Right.
You can't dislike the major the most because we need him later.
Yeah, so...
Because he needs to tell them to recommend you for the Medal of Honor.
Right.
So go and kill that other guy who you like the least after him.
Right.
Strangle him with this scarf.
Right. And they give him the scarf and he just kind of, oh, pardon me. May I please pass you, to get around all the other chairs and go over there and just nonchalantly strangle a man with a scarf.
Well, and the guy who's strangled, he's like, what are you doing? And they say,
what's going on here?
Play, relax, play along.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay. And he willfully is strangled.
Yeah.
He just complies and he is dead.
Yeah.
And then there's another guy and he says, shoot him in the head.
Right.
And he shoots him in the head.
Well, they say to Major, would you please lend Raymond your pistol? He gives him the pistol. And they point to this kid who they talk, oh yeah, he's not even old enough to be in this unit, to be in the military, and he just shoots him in the head.
Yeah. And they're all very polite about it, like, lend him your weapon. Thank you, Major. No problems, Sergeant or whatever.
Yeah. It's really weird.
And it's really demonstrating how fucked up these guys are.
Yeah.
And going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the movie, contextually, 1962, this would have been really effective because the Red Menace, the communists, all of that, it was so prevalent in people's minds. What would be the most terrifying thing you could tell people? Well, they're among us.
Right.
They could be any one of you.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and the fact that you could be captured and programmed and told what to do.
Yeah.
That is how evil and crazed this is. So watching this in 1962, being surrounded by that environment, this would have been really scary.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I totally agree with you. And just what we mentioned in the intro, like watching this in 62 would have been a trip because even though you might not really buy into some like the communist propaganda stuff that was going around, and by this point in 1962 Joseph McCarthy was called out for being full of shit.
He was out of the way.
He was very much like put in the back of the room, so to speak. Go and watch a Good Night and Good Luck to find out his story. But anyway, but yeah, even if you are not buying into that whole thing, you would probably get some feelings here. It's like, oh shit, is that really? I know some Korean vets. Did that happen to you?
Right.
And would you even tell me if I asked you?
And this is taking place in 1954 because
it's 2 years.
It starts in 1952, and they say, oh, it's been 2 years since they were captured.
Yeah.
And there is a presidential election happening, and Raymond's mother is Angela Lansbury, and the second he gets off the plane, like she's arranged this whole like press corps, and she's married to a senator, and he wants to run for president, and they have like a big sign that says Johnny's boy, and he keeps saying it's his son, and he's like, that is not my father.
Right. And
he is adamant.
Like as soon as he gets out of the plane, he's just like, what the hell is all this? I didn't do anything.
Yeah, he despises his mother from the beginning, and they set that up very quickly, and she's like, oh, we have all these wonderful plans for you now that you're back, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do this, and he's like, fuck that, I'm going to New York, and I'm getting a job with this guy who I respect. And she just immediately like, that communist,
they're in the same party. Like these guys are all Republicans, and
which you wouldn't know with all the Abraham Lincoln busts all over her office.
Yeah, so all these people are Republicans, and anyone that they disagree with that isn't completely on their party line, they're going to accuse of being a communist.
And that's his whole shtick, is he's basically an interpretation of McCarthy.
Yeah.
Where he's going out on the floor screaming about, I know there are this many members of the party.
But actually it's this many. But then it's this many. That was a good running joke there because the best scene in the movie is about to happen here. So we got Frank Sinatra's character. He also comes back and he gets a job working for the DOD under, I believe, either the Secretary of the Army or the Secretary of Defense.
They put him on the press corps, basically.
One of those guys. He is a PR agent for them and just is coaching the secretary of whoever to how to deal with the press and whatnot. He's not doing a very good job.
No, he's not good at this.
But it's this scene in the press room where the senator gets up and yells at the secretary, saying, I happen to know personally there are 107 members of the card-carrying Communist Party in the DOD. And this back and forth keeps on going on. The secretary is yelling at him and blah, blah, blah. But the scene is shot in a very cool way where you have one side of the screen. This is a wide screen shot. You can see both parties. On one side of the screen, you have the senator, and one side of the screen, you have the secretary. But in the foreground, you have these television cameras, era-appropriate cameras, where it looks like what it looked like in 1950, whatever.
And a television screen.
Yeah. And it's showing what the cameras would be showing on on TV. So not only do you get the background shots of them way back there, but you get the foreground shots of what it would look like if they had a close-up shot of them.
So yeah, basically when you are on the left side, you see Angela Lansbury in the foreground, her husband, the senator, in the background. She's watching a TV, and what's on the TV is what's happening on the other side of the room.
Right, it's the reaction shot.
And vice versa. When you see Frank Sinatra and the other guy he's helping, there's a TV on that side, and you see the senator. And yeah, the way this is shot and edited was very cool.
And it's all one continuous thing, too.
Listen, this got nominated for editing for the Academy Awards, and I totally get it because there are some really well edited, well shot sequences, like the one we talked about before, this one, there's one near the end where it's like 23 like quick shots near the finale of the movie. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in this one. But yeah, he's having, an absolute field day, making a scene, making a fuss about communism and blah, blah, blah.
As politicians are wont to do. But at the end of this whole thing, Frank Sinatra's character goes up to the senator saying, how many communists was it? Oh, it was 275.
Yeah.
But you just said it was 107.
And the next time we see him, she's reading a paper and the headline says 200.
Right, 200 something. And it's like, and here's the deal about the senator. He's just an empty shell. He is just doing whatever his wife is telling him to do.
Oh, yeah, she is pulling all the strings.
Right. And he's kind of playing it off like it's his own idea, and
He's a buffoon.
he's relishing in the entire in all the attention that he's getting. But he's, yeah, like you said, he's a buffoon who can't remember one single number.
Yeah, and so he says, would it be possible to just please give me one number, like a finite number, stop changing? Because this is really hard.
And then she starts thinking, what would be a good number for you to remember?
That he can remember.
Cut to him putting ketchup on a piece of meat on
Not
his
just
dinner
any
plate.
ketchup, Trent.
Heinz ketchup, Betsy. And of course, while I'm sitting there, I'm yelling at the screen, it's 57! It's 57!
Cut to him on the Senate floor. There are
57 communists!
That was good. Like, he definitely brought some levity. Like, the comedic moments that were in this movie usually involved him to demonstrate he's an idiot. Like, he is not important. It's his wife who is important. And she is doing everything she can to manipulate him, to manipulate her son. She is awful.
She is crazy. So I don't really know what her deal is. So she always is accusing people of being communists and whatever else.
You know what it is? She's a fucking communist.
Well, of course.
Like, what do you do when you are a crook? When you are a member of the Communist Party, when you don't want to be accused of something, what do? Your defense mechanism is accuse other people of being the thing that you are.
It's called projection.
She is projecting upon everybody.
Yeah.
Because we find out, the big twist in the movie is that when Raymond comes back to America, he's going to be handed over to his American handler, his American operator. And they're having a big costume party at mom and dad's house, and she says the code phrase, and it's like, she's his American handler. And she gives a big speech near the end of the movie about how she wanted the assassin. And they don't really give you the full scope of how this came to pass, but we're just sort of led to understand that she is a member of the communists. And we don't know in what capacity.
And she ordered, quote unquote, an assassin.
Yep.
Out of that group of 10, she ordered someone to be programmed to be her assassin.
She asked
for
them
this
to make
giant plot to assassinate whoever the presidential nominee is, but at the same time get her husband enough attention, enough notoriety to be put on the ticket to get people to come out to vote. And
the tactic of the time was to scare everybody.
Yeah, of course.
You yell about communism because
at least for the Republicans it was.
In 1962, we're all going to scream about communism because it gets him on TV, it gets him in the paper, it gets his name out there. And she knows that he cannot win the nomination on his own. He will never get that far. And she says it like, I'm going to put his name up, but we know he can't do it. So she has hired an assassin so that whoever it is gets taken out and he can give this rousing speech covered in blood and refusing help. And he'll be this inspiration and, this beacon of hope against communism.
Well, and she is actually using communist tactics. Like this strong arm stuff. It's the propaganda of how dare you not be a part of this movement. You cannot be an American if you have any kind of connection with this other thing. But it's just for the Republican Party in this case. They don't say it. They don't say Republican. They don't say Democrat. But in the 60s, this is where the dividing line between the parties actually happens.
This is where it started.
Yeah.
And of course, what she ultimately wants is the presidency.
Yeah.
That's the highest office in the land. That is the most power. And then she goes on this long tangent, this rousing speech to her son, who is, programmed right now, about like martial law, and she's going to take over and this
martial
and that.
Law will look like anarchy because those are two sides of the same coin.
Yep. So that's the goal here.
Yeah.
And Angela
Absolute
Lansbury,
power. Yeah.
Angela Lansbury was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this movie, and I get it.
Yeah.
She is a bitch. She is crazy. She is like
she is a true
heartless
believer.
and a true believer.
Yeah.
She does not stray at all. Like, even when it's her own son.
And she did not know it was going to be her son. It was going to be one of the members of this unit that got captured. They're going to grab whoever was going to be the most influenced. And in this case, it makes sense that it would be him because he is so susceptible to her influence at home.
He's been a little bit of a mama's boy.
Yeah.
In that he might be fighting back, but he always bends to her will.
Yeah, he even says while he's he's doing his flashback thing, that of course she won. Of course I'm going to do what she says because I always do what she says.
Yeah, I couldn't go against Mother.
Right.
And when she finds out it's him and she sends him on his final mission, like, all right, here's the rundown. You're going to be dressed as a priest and you're going to go to this spot and you're going to have a sniper rifle. And at this point in the speech, you're going to shoot him. And then this is what's going to happen. And then she looks him dead in the eyes and basically explains, like, why she's doing this. And I didn't know it would be you. But once this is over, I am going to lay my wrath down upon them. Basically, she has accepted that he is going to be the assassin, but she's also going to get some revenge.
The end goal is more important than how the means are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she cray.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of there's some Norman Bates stuff in here. There is some House of Cards stuff in here. They didn't get into the political intrigue until way, way later in the movie. And the Frank Sinatra stuff was a little weird. Like the whole subplot of him meeting this woman. Speaking of Psycho, it's the
Janet
lady.
Leigh!
It's the lady from Psycho. He meets her on the train, and he's kind of like getting through his mind what is actually happening here, and she's just kind of this vessel to take all of it in. She doesn't really help out in any case. There's no reason for her to be there other than, hey, Frank Sinatra gets to kiss a pretty blonde lady.
Yeah, her whole subplot, it was kind of weird for the rest of the movie.
She literally left her fiance
after meeting him once.
After meeting this guy once, and she's immediately in love and wants to get married to him.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't get it.
That was a whole thing. Well, and you and I were both like, is she also some kind of weird
I totally
spy?
thought she was going to be another spy.
Well, she made some joke. Like when they met, they're on the train and she's like, I was on one of the original builders of the railroad.
Right.
One of the Chinese workers. Like,
right.
That's a weird joke.
What the hell was that about?
And I was like, wait, is he still like having a flashback because there was a guy there? Like, I don't understand.
No.
That math doesn't work.
Does she even exist? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just weird, and she was just flirting in a very strange way, and I didn't get it. Like that whole plot was just weird. It was just weird.
I don't think that needed to be there at all.
No.
He could have just been working for the army or whatever branch it was, and just trying to crack this nut. And I think it would have been a better movie.
Yeah, and of course Frank Sinatra, he kind of figures this out pretty easily.
He does.
Like when he's having these nightmares, he goes to the right people. He asks the right questions. Mm-hmm. He is witnessing at one time, once he's reconnected with Raymond, he actually witnesses Raymond be triggered.
Yeah.
And it's just a bartender who happens to use the phrase, why don't you pass the time by playing solitaire.
Yeah.
And then when he sees the Queen of Diamonds, he says, why don't you go jump in the lake? And so Raymond goes and jumps in the lake, and he doesn't know why he did it.
Right. And he doesn't remember anything prior to that.
But of course, Major Marco is there, and he goes, oh, I know exactly what's going on here.
Well, here's the deal. The one plot hole I would say kind of breaks this for me is I don't understand why the Major gets the exact phrase. I don't know where he gets that from, because no one else says it in his midst. He understands that it is something to do with the cards. It is something to do with, he is going to be triggered by this thing. Where does he get the actual phrase to do it? And why does he know that the Queen of Diamonds is the thing?
It's a common enough phrase that you'd think that the people programming him would have picked something more difficult. Like, why don't you pass the time by playing some solitaire?
Yeah.
That's not a hard sentence. It would make more sense to use a phrase like, oh, it's drizzly in the month of May upon a summer's... Like, it doesn't... something that nobody in their mind would ever think of
Right.
in casual conversation. The thing about the Queen, that's fine. But,
Yeah.
it's just...
I don't get it. It's a little bit convenient for him to have figured that out. I don't know how else he would have figured it out, though, unless he happened to be there when it was said.
And he came in, like, right after.
Yeah.
So we don't ever
The only
see
other
him
thing
do
I can
that.
think of is that he went back to the bar and asked the bartender, what were the exact words that you were saying?
And the bartender wouldn't know. He was just making conversation.
With other people.
How would he possibly know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little convenient. I feel like we could have had a little tighter. This is us just nitpicking, though.
Sure.
Because if you can overlook that, it's still a really solid, like, where is this going to go? I was very...
And I understood everything that was happening.
Yeah.
Like, there's hardly any other plot holes here. I understood what I was looking at when they were doing the presentation, the demo scene, the flashback for that. His other flashbacks... When Raymond was telling his backstory about his lady.
He was in love once, and let me tell you about it.
And, like, this whole backstory with him and the lady and her dad. And her dad is another senator who I believe is from the same state. I think they're both the senators from New York. And they're both on the same party.
Yeah, and they have summer homes in the same
They
area.
have a summer home on a lake in Long Island.
They should really have a lot in common.
Yeah.
But because his mother is this domineering Lady Macbeth type,
Right.
she is controlling his life and destiny. And she's like, come with me to New York and I will prove to you that he is a communist.
Right. And he tells a story about the senator does, yeah, I sued your mother at one point, and I won $65,000 in damages for like slander or libel, whatever. Defamation, that's the word, yeah. And I donated it to the ACLU.
Which, in
Well,
1962...
in 1962, the ACLU was very much labeled as a communist organization. Because they did a lot of liberal things, a little liberal activism.
Those were the people that needed their assistance in the 1960s.
Right.
The people being accused very loudly of being communists, whether or not it was true.
Right. It didn't matter if it was true. They just kept on saying it.
Yeah, it's easy to
And
just
anybody
yell
who
communist.
and anybody who donated to them or were sympathetic or took a lawyer from them, you're automatically a communist too.
Yep.
That's just how it was.
Yep. And he fell in love with this guy's daughter, and his mother talked him out of it, and he wrote this real shit letter to her saying, nope, we can't be together anymore. And then he joined the army, and that was that.
Yeah, and I get him being emotional about this because he is such under the thumb of his mother, and he just does whatever that she's wanted him to do forever. And he is a self-proclaimed, like, dude who is not lovable. And it took this incident where he is like shirtless on the beach and he gets bit by a snake. Yep. I don't really know why this had to be in the movie, why this story had to be what it was, but it was just kind of weird.
It's also kind of that thing where I expected him to just tell the story and we would just hear what happened.
But no, we get an entire flashback scene. So like he's shirtless on the beach, she shows up on a bicycle and is like apparently trained in how to treat snake bites and venom.
Because her dad's like really into
snakes. Her dad's
snakes.
into that. Maybe he's a doctor of some kind. But
he's a hobbyist, if nothing else.
Yeah, she just keeps on. He doesn't say hardly a word in this entire thing. But she gets down there and starts to treat his leg that got bit by a snake. And, like, she's just being all cute and funny. And she says, oh, do you happen to have a handkerchief? Well, of course you don't. And she just, and I even yelled at the screen, take off your shirt. That's what it's going to be. How else are you going to fall in love with this lady?
She has nothing else to offer.
She goes, wee! There goes the shirt.
Yep.
And she ties it around his leg. And, okay, I'm going to go and get a car and get you over here. How the hell did she get him into a car?
Well, he could stand up and move. She just had to go and get the car because she was on a bicycle.
It's true.
But yeah, he has a lovely time with her, and he meets her dad,
Yeah.
and they're all laughing, and he says, and I was lovable, and she was lovable, and we were all so lovable,
And by
and
the end of the
summer was lovable.
And by the end of the conversation, he asks the dad, "Can I marry your daughter?"
And they all have like, what a funny thing to say.
Right.
And so later on in the movie, you know, he's been broken up with this woman in a very shoddy sort of way.
Yeah.
And his mother insisted he do it. Well, his mother has decided that it's time for him to get married. You know who he should marry? That nice girl.
That nice
the
communist
senator's
girl.
My opinion has changed of her over the years.
Right.
So we're going to have a big party in her honor because she's been living abroad and she's coming home.
A costume party of all things.
A costume party. She invites the senator. She invites the daughter. She gets her son, who has basically not talked to her in months,
Right.
to come to the party. And this is where it's revealed that, oh, it's his mom who's the handler.
Yeah.
But before she can give him orders, Josie, the girl, shows up, and they immediately fall back in love and get married.
Well, and even during that scene, his mom says the trigger stuff about solitaire. He has the queen in front of him, and he's just waiting for an order. Well, guess what shows up later? His girlfriend coming in wearing a costume of the Queen of Diamonds.
Yep.
What the fuck?
In a fit of irony.
Yeah.
And her suggestion is, let's get married. So they do.
Right.
And it's all wonderful fun and everybody's happy. But then Frank Sinatra shows up and says, listen, I need your husband to come with me
I was
for
going to be
voluntary
here,
questioning.
I was going to be here to arrest him. Oh, wait, that's too harsh. I'm going to take him in for questioning.
But she says, we've only been married a few hours. Please give us the time.
Sure.
And him being a big softy says, sure, I'll give you 2 days.
Yeah.
And they go off to some bed and breakfast or something, and they're having a lovely honeymoon. And then he sees his stepfather on TV yelling about how her dad is a communist and he's going to vote for impeachment on the Senate floor.
And he is getting the VP nomination. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So all the pieces are kind of coming together here. But the final piece, when he goes to confront his mom about it, guess what? She's going to take the deck of cards, and she's got a couple of more orders for him. The first one being, you're going to go assassinate the other senator and his daughter.
Your now
father-in-law and wife, because your new father-in-law is going to block the nomination of my husband.
I don't think it was intentional. I don't think she ever said to kill his wife. I think she just woke up and was a witness, so he had to do it.
I don't know. It was not actually suggested. It wasn't implied.
They don't say it on the screen what her orders are. She just is shown grabbing the deck of cards like, I just have one thing to tell you.
Sure.
And he goes in and he shoots the senator, and then she shows up and he shoots her.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Yeah. I was not
like,
expecting that at all.
I mean, I could believe that he was going to kill the other senator, but for her to show up and him to take her out too, that was a surprise.
And then, of course, he's walking out in the dead of night and tears are streaming down his face.
Stepping over her dead body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he shot her between the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it was fucked up. And he just sort of disappears and he doesn't know what happened.
Yeah.
And he's crying alone in a hotel room because all he knows is his wife is dead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then by
up.
this point, Marco has figured out all of it. And he says, I waited too long. That's on me. I got to do it now.
Where are you? I need to come to you now.
And he's got a dummy deck of all Queen of Diamonds.
Yeah.
And so he says the phrase, he starts playing, and he gets him to spill. He says, what happened in Korea? Mm-hmm. All right, that was a lot of information for one card. Let's keep playing. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Who is in charge? He never asks him who's in charge.
No.
Weirdly. Mm-hmm. But when he gets a phone call, he tells him, you're not programmed anymore.
Yeah.
The wires have been ripped
pulled out. Yeah, you're done with this. You're free.
Nobody can tell you what to do anymore.
And there's no acknowledgement there that he is free, that he's
it worked.
snapped out of it, so to speak. But he takes the call. It's his mother.
And he says, Mother wants me to do this.
Yes. And there's the big revelation to the Frank Sinatra character. And we don't know. We do not know if he is completely snapped out of it or not.
No,
because there's no acknowledgement there.
He goes, and he's supposed to go because Sinatra basically gives him the nod, like, yep take the call.
Yep.
Go,
find out
and then
what's going on and report back.
Report it back to me. So he goes to the house, and that's where we get that big scene where she's like, you are going to assassinate the nominee.
Yeah. She has her big, sinister, evil plot speech before it all happens.
I've got to give you all the exposition.
Yeah.
And hope it all goes according to plan.
Right.
And he shows up, and he goes exactly where he's supposed to be. And Sinatra is like, why hasn't he called? Quick, let's go. And it's at Madison Square Garden because the climax in New York must be in Madison Square Garden.
Of course.
It was shiny and new in those days.
Yeah. And you know what? It makes sense for these days because back in the 50s and 60s, Republicans were all over New York. It was the Rockefeller Republicans, the rich, the things that you think about
old
money Republicans. That was New York State, all over the place. Mm-hmm. Not that way anymore. No. But that's what it was. So in context, it makes total sense that the Republican presidential nomination would be held at Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely. And Sinatra is able to spot, like, when the lights go out for the big speech, there's a booth up in the ceiling with a light on, and it goes, oh, that must be where he is.
And he runs. Run.
And Sinatra's not a young man by the time this movie was made. He was probably pushing 60 by the time this came out. And he's running up all the stairs. It's a stadium. There's a lot of stairs. Yep. He knocks over all the Pepsi.
No, not the Pepsi. But yeah, he gets all the way up there, and it like by how it's edited here, how it's shot, you know that he's gonna get to the line in the speech. He's not gonna be in time.
Sinatra's not gonna get there in time.
Sinatra's not gonna get there in time. We get to the line in the speech. The camera's on the dude. There's no shot. He moves the gun over to the senator and his mother, and they're both dead.
Yeah, he shot his stepfather.
Yep.
And then his mother.
Uh-huh.
And then himself.
Yes.
And this is when we realize he is deprogrammed.
Yeah.
Because Sinatra shows up immediately after he's fired the gun. He turns around and he says something to the effect of,
the army was not going to be able to stop them. I was the only one that could do
nobody
this.
was going to be able to stop them, so I stopped them.
Because I get where he's coming from here, whereas he tells himself, I'm not lovable. I have no friends in the world. My mother, I just shot and killed. I have no other family anymore. I'm going to have to go through years and years and years of therapy, probably.
And deprogramming.
Deprogramming. I don't want to have to do that anymore. I did so many horrible things. I'm just going to off myself and save myself and everybody else the trouble.
Well, and this is before we, as a society, knew and talked about PTSD as a thing. Like, they called it shell shock.
They went through so many different euphemisms for this stuff. It has just turned there's a George Carlin bit about how it went in the 50s, it was called shell shock, and then in the 60s they called it this, post-traumatic stress, and it just turned into this thing that it's the same thing, but it's call different things throughout the decades.
Right, but the concept of it, they always just kind of said, oh, he's just a little weird after the war.
He got a little messed up.
He got a little messed up, but they didn't actually acknowledge it as actual trauma. And this guy has some real trauma, but it's been buried because he has been programmed to forget it. So now that he's remembering it, he's gonna be really messed up.
Yeah.
And he's wearing his Medal of Honor.
He put his Medal of Honor back on.
And then he kills himself.
Yeah.
And again, that was surprising. Like, that all happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, it's just kind of a weird scene because it's like, how do you end this movie at this point? And it's just Sinatra, like, reading a book of, like, military valor in the United States. Right. And then he says, like, Raymond Shaw, this is what he did, and he died with honor. End of movie. Fade to black.
Right.
Like,
I did not get that scene at all.
That was the only thing where it's just like, and abruptly
like,
it's
over. Is this like
in
the future and they wrote a book about a bunch of guys who did a bunch of shit in the Korean War?
No, he wasn't reading that. He just said his name. Like, I don't know what wars it was included. If it was World War I, II, who knows?
Yeah.
It was just a book he was reading, like comparing the the accounts. Like, here's a guy who got his arm shot off and his legs shot off, and he still managed to save 2 dudes by crawling them to safety.
So is
and
he just
equating?
He's just equating his service, quote unquote, with these other men who did all these things in a war.
Well, and they talk about it at the beginning. Like, in the entirety of the Korean War, there were only a handful of medals handed out. The Medal of Honor was only given out to a few people. And so at the end of it, they're kind of bringing that full circle where he's like, here's a guy that got the Medal of Honor, and here's a guy, and then here's Raymond. He is considered among their ranks, and nobody really knows the truth about what happened to him.
Sure.
But I think he's also saying in the end, like, he earned the medal because even though, you know, he killed himself, he took it upon himself to right this ship, if you will.
Well, he saved the country for being taken over by a communist president.
Right.
Or at least a communist president puppet.
Correct.
Because that's exactly what he would have been in this scenario. He was completely controlled by his wife and whoever his wife was working for.
Yeah. Knowingly or not, because
right.
I don't think he knew, because he was a stupid little man.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, yeah. Manchurian Candidate.
It's a heavy movie.
It's a heavy movie. I really liked it. I think I understand why this movie has survived the last 60 years, why people still reference this as one of the best political thrillers, as one of the best, you know, Cold War communist things. Do you have any other thoughts, anything we didn't already cover about this one before we wrap this one up?
No, I think we've kind of said everything about it that we wanted to say. Overall, this is one of those kind of serious movies, and we don't cover a lot of these types. So I'm glad we watched it. It's a good choice for 1962. It's very much a microcosm of the things that were still being talked about. In 62, we're talking about stuff that happened in the 50s. So one other, I guess I just thought of something now. Thinking about, you know, assassinations. This came out in 62, Betsy. What happened the next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times from there until the end of the 60s into the 70s.
Sure. That kind of kicked off a lot of the political assassination stuff. And I'm not equating anything here. I'm not trying to say this was an inspiration for anything, but I can see how this movie was maybe people tried to push it off to the side and maybe not talk about it all that much, especially in this era, because good God, it would have been hell to live through this era.
Well, remember,
of political strife and protests and everything else.
We watched Dr. Strangelove just a few weeks ago, and you were reading about that one and how that was supposed to come out in 1963.
Yes.
Right around the time President Kennedy was assassinated, and they had to push it and edit it because there were some eerily upsetting lines that they needed to change before that movie could come out, which is why it didn't come out until 1964. Yeah. But anyway, that being said, that's going to be it for this one. We do have an email today from our super fan, Stephanie. We got one from her about The Nice Guys, which we watched a couple weeks ago. Stephanie says, I have seen this and thought it was just meh. That is why I love your podcast, because it helps me articulate my meh feelings.
So glad we can help put some words to your bleh.
The actors do well with what they are given, but the tone does seem very disjointed. This movie was frustrating because it could be a fun comedy, but they kept ruining it with seriousness. Anywho, love you guys, superfan Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think we agree with that assessment. It could have been much better than what it was.
It had so much potential, and it had moments that were genuinely amazing, but as a whole, it was just like, what am I watching?
It was all over the place. The actors just being themselves on screen was the best part. It should have been better.
Absolutely. Well, if you would like to share your thoughts, agreeing or contrary to The Nice Guys, if you would like to talk about The Manchurian Candidate,
or just talk about these movies that we're going to be watching. We're not going to reveal any of them here, but think about 1972, 82, 92, 02, 2012, and 2022.
That's 7 movies, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
if you're paying attention. But if you would like to send us those thoughts, you can email us at neverseenitpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, neverseenit_pod. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Never Seen It Pod 1. That's the number 1. You can also support the show by clicking the link in the podcast description or just sharing these posts from any of those social media sites with your friends and opening up and contributing to the conversation about these movies. We love to talk about movies as evidenced by our 150 plus episodes.
Yes. And it's really strange. Betsy and I sat down the other day and made this list of movies that we're doing here. And we also have like the next month after that planned out.
We have so many movies we want to watch.
It is insane. Like we have this shit planned out through November now. It's crazy. So
we're weird. But yes, please join us next time. We will be moving on to our next decade, so we'll be in 1972. You'll find out soon enough what that movie is going to be.
And no breaks. It's just going right along.
Yeah, we're going to go right into the next decade until we get to the present day.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you can look for that coming soon. And this has been Never Seen It. I have been Betsy.
And I'm Trent.
And we will catch you in the 70s.
Oh boy.